whenever you get asked who is the most underrated driver in Formula 1 today, 90% of the time it's Sergio Perez. He's a driver that's very consistent, very, very quick, and in a way, very unlucky. You know, he had his time at McLaren, a little stint there for a year alongside Jenson Button, and we all thought this is the moment Sergio Perez goes from, you know, chilling in the midfield to challenging for race wins and possibly titles in the future. He had a really good season with Sauber in 2012, 2013 with McLaren alongside Button. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, unfortunately. The car wasn't competitive and Perez wasn't really on the pace of Button, and a lot of people said it was too early in his career to make such a big move from Sauber up to McLaren. He went to race, well, now they're called Racing Point, but at the time they were called Air Force India in 2014, and he's remained there ever since. And he's just really been in the same position throughout the majority of his career, just a couple of podiums here and there, and that's pretty much it. And a lot of people have been banging on that drum of Perez to Ferrari, Perez to Ferrari, Perez to Ferrari. It nearly came about, but then again didn't. You know, Perez wasn't really a contender for that seat. Sebastian Vettel was, and then, you know, once Raikkonen left, it was then replaced by Charles Leclerc, and Perez knew that was his moment gone. But this season, as you can blatantly see, I think Perez does have a chance of being back at the front of the grid, or near the front of the grid with the Racing Point. That car looks really competitive, and Perez has put in some really good performances. Now, he did show this at the most recent Grand Prix, that was the Styrian Grand Prix. Some really good battles from 18th to 4th. Well, could have been 4th, but then it got dropped down to 6th after you had front wing damage by making contact with Alexander Albon. So, and just before the season started, he signed a brand new 3-year deal with Racing Point, which, by the way, gets transitioned into Aston Martin next season until 2022. So, solid foundations. He's been at the team, you know, he's been at the team since 2014. He knows the team very well, and he was one of the reasons one of the main reasons why the team is still here today when they went into administration in 2018. He made the claim known, and then they are still here today, and they're going to be going to Aston Martin next season. But now, randomly, there's talk that he could be on his way out. Exactly, I know, what the hell? Why a driver with Sergio Perez's caliber, and now he's in a really good position to be potentially battling for race wins, is looking that he's going to be leaving the Silverstone-based team to be replaced by 4-time world champion and current Ferrari driver Sebastian Vettel. It's raised a lot of eyebrows. It's went like, hang on, what on earth is going on? So basically, what's been happening this week, Sebastian Vettel, as you know, is leaving Ferrari. There's been a lot of speculation as to what he's going to be doing, retire, take a year out, or go to another team. A lot of doors have closed, and this week, I would say realistically, the Mercedes door has actually closed. George Russell is staying at Williams. Valtteri Bottas is more than likely going to be signing a 1-year deal, another 1-year extension deal. That door's closed. McLaren door's closed, Renault door's closed, and it's almost like, oh well, Vettel's going. But the one door that's always remained open throughout the majority of this, you know, talk, is the Aston Martin deal. So there's been links that he will be going there, and apparently, to some sources, there is this deal, a contract on the table for the 4-time world champion. Some people have denied this. Some people have just said, yeah, okay, we're not saying much. But a lot of people were like, oh, well, bye Stroll, thanks for the memories, and yeah, have a good look in the future. No, there's apparently talk that Vettel is going to be replacing Sergio Perez. Straight off the bat, I'm going to say, why? Why, oh why, oh why would you want to replace Vettel? Not so much Perez himself, you know, replacing not Perez replacing Vettel and stuff like that. But it's more the fact that you could have really two good drivers in you know, a team that's going forward in Perez and Sebastian Vettel in the same team. And a driver like Perez, like I said at the start, with his caliber, leaving the team to go elsewhere, wherever that would be, I don't know. You know, now he's in a good position to potentially get podiums and race wins. And after a season, he could be on his way out back to the midfield. What? It doesn't make any sense to me. Lyle, help me out here. I mean, Sergio Perez, you know, we like Perez here at the F1 Debate Show. We really, really do. He's one of the most likeable characters on the F1 grid. He doesn't get in people's ways. He doesn't annoy many people. He doesn't, you know, toss up too many controversies in the F1 paddock. He just gets about his business like any driver does. But instantly, what are you thinking when you hear that Sebastian Vettel could be replacing Sergio Perez at Aston Martin for 2021? Are you Yeah, where do you stand with that?
I hear one word, and that's nepotism. And that is that Lawrence Stroll, of course, the man who owns the team, is keeping his son there, Lance. I mean, firstly, let's just start with that. Of course, like, you know, you said there, Sergio Perez might be getting replaced by Sebastian Vettel. The reason why that would happen is because of Lance Stroll will be staying at the team. And firstly, of course, you know, it doesn't really take a genius to think about that he is staying, that Lawrence wants him staying at the team. We've talked about this many times, John. We've said, you know, when he's been at Williams and things like that, Lawrence Stroll is a businessman. He's going to replace Lance if he isn't doing as well. And now this talk is showing that was just all talk and white noise because he's keeping him out of the team. He's a good driver, Lance Stroll, but obviously he's not the best at that team. Sergio is. You know, he is, of course, the leader of the team. He's been there longer, he knows the ropes, he's older, and he is just the better driver. You know, he's battled teammates Ford, Hulkenberg and Ocon. He's won, and they haven't lasted the distance. Sergio has. And of course he's better than Lance Stroll, but it looks like Lawrence and Racing Point are keeping Lance in because of obviously being the son of the team owner, which is a shame. And, you know, off the bat, that's where I'm thinking. I'm like, it shouldn't work in that way. Sergio Perez is a great driver and should not be moving for Sebastian Vettel. And in this way, I'm just thinking, no way, I don't want Sebastian to come to the team to replace Sergio Perez. But yes, then I'm thinking, well, what happens if he just replaces Lance Stroll? But obviously that's not going to happen because that's not what this topic is about. That hasn't even been put on the table because of the fact that Lance Stroll is not moving. Why? Because Lawrence Stroll, the owner of the team, is not moving his son out. And it just doesn't make sense in that way that Lance Stroll would stay out the team to partner Sebastian Vettel when Sergio is a much better driver. I mean, obviously, as you've seen, John, yeah, Sergio is underrated. He's very deserving of a high spot in Formula 1. I've said that I don't really know where he could go now. I don't think he should really go anywhere. I think that Racing Point / Aston Martin, his home, you know, he can definitely do a good race there. He's been at the team for a long time. As I've just mentioned there, you know, he has partnered Sergio Perez. Yes, he has. He is Sergio Perez. He's partnered Nico Hulkenberg. He's partnered Esteban Ocon. He's had good battles with Hulkenberg. Obviously, he's beaten him. Hulkenberg's no longer in Formula 1. He's beaten Ocon.
Can actually, as well, he's beaten every single teammate since 2014.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was... So, actually, yeah, just go back to 2014, obviously, going to Force India was incredible. He just definitely deserved that move to McLaren, but yes, that was when we were getting worried. That's probably the only year of Sergio Perez's career that we were a little bit worried about, you know, what's happening, why have McLaren done this, obviously kicking him out, and we were thinking he could just join that list of kind of one-hit wonders and the people that we do worry about, a little bit like what Magnussen did, you know, the year later at McLaren. But moved to Force India in 2014, obviously that's where he stayed. Yeah, done really, really well. Obviously, you know, most known for battling Ocon. That was probably the only year where it was a little bit kind of treacherous for Sergio. That in 2013, obviously 2018, he ran into Ocon quite a few times. I think it was Azerbaijan, Belgium, and obviously Singapore as well. Obviously the race at Arsaw, they crashed on. He pushed Ocon into the one of the corners after turn 3, I think it was. Don't know whose real fault it was, but obviously that was a major incident in that race. Obviously definitely deserving to, you know, definitely underrated and definitely deserves to be at the team. And that's just the main thing. I mean, yeah, Sebastian, you know, fair enough, he's a good driver. Obviously, he wants to come to the team. You know, he wants to stay in Formula 1. Obviously, Renault now is closed. He wants to be at a top field team. He believes that this team can do it. And obviously, in terms of when he was at Red Bull, Renault, obviously, Aston Martin were a main sponsor that came on board just a few years before he left, and obviously grew into obviously a big main sponsor for the team. I guess there might be some ties in there. It would be good to see Sebastian go into the team, but like you just said there, Jordan, you know, Sebastian and Stroll and Sergio being replaced, I just don't understand why. I mean, I do, because I've just said, but I don't understand why Lawrence is keeping him at the team. It shouldn't work like that. You know, as I say, you know, we've talked many times about Lawrence. Basically, he should have that business mentality and think, well, in this situation, we should be saying, right, well, I tell you, well, firstly, so Sergio was signed, as you've just said there, till 2022. Lawrence Stroll should say, right, well, Lance isn't signed. He's only got a contract till the end of this season, so next season, you know, there's still a question mark about where he's going to go. Sergio is a better driver, more experience, better results and things like that. Better start to the season, and obviously the helm of Racing Point. We should be saying Sebastian Vettel can come to the team, fair enough, but to partner Sergio Perez and replace Lance Stroll, two things will come out of that. One, people will be more happy because, you know, it's Lance Stroll getting replaced. He is the lesser driver, and obviously Formula 1 is, you know, faced like that. It's all about points, all about consistency. And secondly, we all love Sergio Perez. And, firstly, Jordan, I mean, my views on Sebastian going to the team, they can be amazing. But like you've just said there, we are fans of Sergio Perez. So if he does come to the team, I'll be like, I won't like that. And if anything, I'll probably resent Racing Point, Aston Martin, and Sebastian, well, not really Sebastian, but I'll resent Racing Point / Aston Martin for that decision, and Lawrence Stroll. And obviously, as I say, I don't like what Lawrence Stroll's done there, not replacing his son, because Lance Stroll, he's not a bad driver, but in this way, he obviously is. He's not as good as Sergio.
Yeah.
That's just what I don't understand about it. But my views...
I think a lot of people will, like you said there, will like, just go against Aston Martin if they do decide to replace Perez with Sebastian Vettel and keep Lance Stroll. But I guess the silver lining in this is that it's actually, if you remember, it's a consortium that actually owns Racing Point now. So there's not just Lawrence Stroll, there's other investors there as well who will want to be keeping money into the team. Despite it being Aston Martin, they still want to have money injected into the team. Perez, remember, brings a lot, and I mean a lot of money from Mexico. So financially, they'll want to have that in there. But, like I said just before what I said there, the lifeline is it might not just be Lawrence Stroll's decision. If other people believe, well, financially and on pace-wise and driver-wise, I think they might look at it more financially, but on pace-wise, in another sense, Perez is the driver that we want to lead this team on. So Lawrence, you're going to have to let go of your son, which is going to be tough, but that might not be the end of Lance Stroll in Formula 1.
But you've just said there that the consortium have decided that Lance Stroll should be the one to stay. So obviously it's not just Lawrence Stroll believing in his son, and you've just said there with Sergio Perez bringing money, they're still turning their back to that and keeping Lance Stroll behind the scenes. There must be something going on a little bit behind the scenes in this decision. I don't just get why Sergio Perez is being talked about being replaced. It's like, Jordan, when we've talked about, I don't think we might have, but we probably might do, might have. When we've ever said something like George Russell replacing Lewis Hamilton, right now Lewis will never go. Why? That's ludicrous. That's ridiculous, unless there's something happened behind the scenes. And I think that's something that has to have, because we're talking about something that's pretty ridiculous at the moment. Sebastian is a good driver, and replacing Sergio, yes, he is better than Sergio because of his results, and he is a faster driver, but we're not talking about this. We're not talking about is Vettel better than Sergio. We're talking about is Lance better than Sergio in a subdivision kind of thing. We're talking about is Lance better than Sergio? No, he's not. So in that way, he's second place and is the first one to be kind of eaten by and replaced by Sebastian Vettel. And that's what should be the partnership. And I think we did a poll the other day on Twitter which won on Vettel and Perez. And
I'm pleased you said that because I've got it up here on my screen to my right. So yes. We did a vote as well. Like, we asked you guys what Aston Martin lineup would you like in 2021. We had Perez, Stroll, Vettel, Perez, Vettel, Stroll, or two other drivers, and a whopping 75% of you guys said Vettel, Perez, which is true. I would happily take that because not only have you got the experience of Sebastian Vettel, who knows how a World Championship team, how it works, you've also got Perez, who's got a lot of experience, who knows that team very, very well. For me, it's a no-brainer. Now, I know, take away the whole Lance's, the boss is his dad type of thing, take that away. On a realistic terms, it should be a no-brainer. We should not be sitting here discussing should Perez be staying with, should be staying with Perez and should not be replaced by Sebastian Vettel. It shouldn't be happening. It's a no-brainer. And it is like, wow,
for me,
it's like we actually have at this point.
For me, I'm not saying, because this is quite amusing. I'm liking this debate because Lance Stroll, so I could so see next year Aston Martin pairing Stroll and Vettel. I would love that. I would also love Vettel and Perez. What I mean is, it's perfect. And if this was about, let's say, I don't know, I mean, no offense to any K-Mag fans out there, but if we were saying right now, so obviously K-Mag and Stroll in the same team, and Sebastian Vettel's going to replace K-Mag, I would say goodbye K-Mag, whatever it is in Danish, goodbye. Because I would love the fact to see Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll again. That would be absolutely incredible. He's a very I like Lance Stroll, and I hope you guys do as well. We give him a lot of grief on this channel, or we talk about him a lot again, like McLaren was a few years ago. I think Lance Stroll probably is the driver we've talked about the most this season, because being Lance Stroll this, Lance Stroll that, and obviously his reputation of, you know, Papa Stroll, that came from Talking F1, by the way, the Papa before the names. I love it, like Papa Stroll, Papa. He did a video, one of the first videos I ever saw of him. He did Papa Latifi, and I'm like, I'm gonna kind of steal that. Because I'm like, that's so good. Anyway, was it so much? Oh yeah, so obviously Lance Stroll's, you know, talked about quite a lot. I would love the partnership between Vettel and Stroll, but yeah, you know, it needs to be Vettel and Perez, Jordan. So, you know, in that way, obviously, you know, we've both said it's ludicrous, but, you know, Vettel and Perez. So we've said that would be a good partnership. Vettel going to Aston Martin. What is your views on that? Obviously, you know, Vettel's been talked about a lot, you know, leaving Ferrari. We can also talk about what happened in Styria as well, which obviously I covered also in the news, which is Charles Leclerc crashed into him. I said it kind of made his decision up a little bit. I mean, not of course, like in terms of, you know, it's good, I'm retiring kind of thing, but the fact of like, I'm happier that I'm leaving Ferrari, and it might have hindered his, you know, thought of staying in Formula 1 anymore. You know, does he want another season or two of this? Obviously, there was talk of Sebastian going to Renault, but Sebastian going to Aston Martin. What do you think of that?
I think it will be a good move, and it will be like a real statement of intention from Aston Martin to say, look, we've got Sebastian Vettel on board. Now remember who Aston Martin once were, well, when they do get rebranded. Well, for the sake of this episode, we'll just address them as Aston Martin, because that's what they're going to be called next year, and that's
so
what kind of decides.
Not Force India then. Not Force India.
No, but no, that's what I'm going to get up against, right? So Aston Martin, they were known as Force India. Who was Force India? The giant killers of Formula 1. They were the team that nobody expected to do well and did well. What was it? Was it 2016, 2017? They finished 4th 2 years in a row on a shoestring budget, beating the likes of McLaren and Ferrari in the process. Wow, that's amazing. This is the team that was like that. And for a driver like Sebastian Vettel, who we'll get to him in a little bit. Actually, we'll discuss about Vettel, but a driver of what he brings in terms of experience to the team and his titles, but I do want to remove his titles. I think they are a bit irrelevant in this, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But bring his experience, bring what he knows, what his knowledge is to how to run a Formula 1 team. How to win a World Championship Formula 1 team. It would work, and like I said, it would be a big statement from Aston Martin to say, right, we've got Vettel on board. This is what we're going to be doing in the future. The other driver, it has to be Perez, and I'm sorry. I don't want this to be a let's bitch about, you know, Lance Stroll and let's talk about how terrible he is. I don't want anyone to disown Lance Stroll and, you know, just to troll Lance Stroll, because Lance Stroll, he is a good driver. He could do a better job than what Lyle could, you know what I mean, and maybe various others. But also there are better drivers out there who could possibly replace Lance Stroll and be better at it. You know, there is a few. So Lance Stroll is like, he's not the worst driver in the world, but also at the same time he's not exactly World Championship material. So he's just a basic, you know, type of driver. I don't know what that was. But the problem you've got though is that his dad is one of the team owners, one of the investors. You know what I mean? And Lawrence, who's Lawrence? Lawrence Stroll has invested in his son's career through from like the very beginning to today, and he'll want to continue that, whether that's with Aston Martin or not. So Lawrence Stroll could find another team easily for his son. One team in particular is Haas, who are not doing very well financially, could be doing a bit better. They will want money from somewhere. Why not chuck him in a Haas? What's the problem with that? He's had connections with Ferrari in the past. Stick him in there, see how he does. You know what I mean? Like, you could easily do that. Alfa Romeo. If Kimi decides to retire and Alfa decide we don't want any of the F2 boys just yet, they're not ready, stick Stroll in there. I think he'll do a half decent job. You know what I mean? So that's what you could do. But that's the only thing, because if this was in another team, you would take Vettel in a heartbeat over Stroll. No problem whatsoever. And like I said, that's nothing against it. But I really like that lineup of Perez and Vettel. That would be absolutely brilliant for the team in terms of going forward. But I do want to talk about Vettel a little bit, because he's not exactly the guy he once was. Now, this is what I'm saying about the whole, his 4 championships are irrelevant when it comes to this, because that was old Sebastian Vettel. The Vettel of today is not the guy us fans who knew Vettel back in the day. He's not that guy anymore. He's a totally different Sebastian Vettel. You can look at it from two ways. You can look at it as like a right, okay. Because like, you know, it's now becoming relevant, because if you're talking about Perez, Vettel replacing Stroll, for me, yeah, fair enough, that's fine. But replacing Perez, now this is where I'm going, hang on a minute, wait there, let's talk about this. So, Vettel at Ferrari, it hasn't worked. He looked quick at times, but nowadays, 2019 and 2020, he's absolutely nowhere. The car, I know, is bad. It isn't where it wants to be. But how many wins? What, 1 win in 2 pole positions last season compared to 2 wins and 7 pole positions from his teammate. And already this year, his teammate has got a podium in P2. A lucky podium, but still a podium. And remember what happened in the Styrian Grand Prix. Vettel made a little mistake and he span again. And you're going, Vettel, this is the 3rd bloody year in a row. This isn't a blip. For some reason, it's not clicking. Is it because Vettel has lost his... He's a washed down, overrated driver now, where he's like... back in the day, he was brilliant. Now, he's lost all of it. Or is it because he's a Ferrari and he's just not comfortable there? In going to Aston Martin, would we see the old Sebastian Vettel? Now, I've always said, if Vettel was to return to, I say maybe not return, but go to a team like Alfa Romeo, or a team that's, you know, half competitive, maybe like an AlphaTauri, let's say, just for argument's sake, I could guarantee you would see a better Sebastian Vettel, a more a P5, P6, you know, going above race objectives types of Sebastian Vettel. I mean, Kimi Räikkönen for a prime example. Kimi was nowhere near the pace of Vettel and Alonso when he was at Ferrari. Goes to Alfa Romeo, he's more relaxed. He's more, yeah, people like Kimi now. People are more relaxed about Kimi. Now, I know they're different drivers, but you know what I mean? Like, taking away that pressure is like, you know, maybe the pressure at Ferrari is greater than having the pressure at Red Bull. And maybe Vettel can't deal with it. So, I think you've almost got to ask, out of the two, who do you want? If, let's say Stroll's locked in. Stroll isn't moving. They've announced it. Stroll is going to be here at Aston Martin for 2021. The 2 drivers left are Perez and Vettel. Who do you go for? Lyle, questions to you first. Vettel or Perez? Who do you choose to partner alongside Lance Stroll if that is what's going to be happening for next season?
I think you've got to think about how the team's going to do it in the future, and what's the future in both drivers. Sergio Perez obviously is a lot younger than Sebastian, a lot hungrier, and to be honest, on average, in terms of the second part of the season, obviously, as you said there, John, you know, and again, actually, I'm going to jump on your little bandwagon and say, you know, for the purpose of Sebastian, let's talk about 2015 onwards, obviously when he went to Ferrari, or even 2014 with Red Bull, last season with Red Bull, but kind of taking out the World Championships. And I know you might be thinking, well, that was his highlight of his career. But obviously they were a very long time ago. And obviously I love Sebastian Vettel for that. I think he's one of the best drivers ever, and he obviously will be one of the GOATs. My view on Sebastian is, I don't think he should stay in Formula 1 anymore. He's had a very good career, but I think now it's best that he walks away. And also, so obviously that was my view on Sebastian before this came about, you know, talking about Sergio Perez and things like that. But also with Sergio, as I've said, you know, he's honestly such a good driver. We really like him. And the future he's got is good. I'm not going to say it's great. It's not like, you know, Verstappen great or, you know, great like Hamilton great. But it is going to be very good. And as I've just said there, you know, many times, and we talked about this on another episode, I forgot which one it was, we said, you know, where's Sergio going to go? I think it was, see, when Carlos got signed for Ferrari. We said, where's he going to go? And I said, nowhere. Because I think that Sergio's best, and to be honest, only move. This could be his last, actually not even a move, this could be his last team. This could be the team he retires with. But when I say retires, I mean like he stays with this team for, you know, 5, 6, 7 years. He has a good long career with them. He could run this team very well, and he could run it either like Sebastian Vettel did with Red Bull, you know, 1 year to implement, starts winning races, then next year wins a world title and obviously takes off like mad and gets a team built around him. And the chances of that happening are actually pretty good because obviously, you know, I know Lance is, obviously he has a hotline to the consortium with his dad being in it. But Sergio is, you know, part of the team. He's implemented. Obviously, he's been at the teams with different names for a very long time. He could have the team built around him as the #1 driver, or he could, and obviously he probably won't want this as much, but he could still do something like a Mark Webber at Red Bull. You know, Mark Webber was there from the very, very start when they switched over from Jaguar. And again, even though Sebastian, a lot of names here, and they both start with S, so I'm like, oh my god. So, you know, Mark Webber, even though Sebastian obviously beat him towards the end and he got a bit frustrated, he still was doing incredibly well in that car. He was getting them to things like Constructor Championships. He was getting wins for himself. You know, he was a very, very good driver. Obviously, one of my favourites. He was the earliest, my favourite driver when I came into Formula 1. He was the man who got us into Formula 1. And obviously, the man who won our first race. Any way that happens, and they're both Red Bull drivers actually, any way that happens would be great for Sergio. But as I say, you know, whatever happens in those two scenarios, he's definitely the leader and definitely the man who can go forward and bring Aston Martin to what they need in the future. He's the leader. And he's got that future, he's got that promise behind him, and well, behind him and ahead. He's got that support behind him, and he's got that and the experience behind him as well. So again, with McLaren and Force India, beating people like Nico Hülkenberg and Esteban Ocon, and obviously Esteban's still in Formula 1, so again, he can, you know, maybe bring that fight to him this season and hopefully later on in the teams. Obviously an old rival as well, because as you said, you know, they didn't really get on in 2018. Probably the only teammate Sergio never really got on. George said at the start, you know, he's a likeable guy. I think Esteban's probably the only guy who would say, I beg to differ. But still, you know, very, very strong driver. He's got the potential. He's got the future at Aston Martin, and I believe that he will stay. This is coming a bit of a prediction video, isn't it? So my view is that Sergio should stay. Lance, yeah, he'll stay as well. He is the future, and it's his dad who runs the team. And I think that's a lineup, Jordan. Sebastian Vettel, I mean, yeah. I mean, my view is to be like a roulette table. You know, you've got to know when to leave. You've got to know when to walk away. And I think Sebastian, it's his now. His time is to walk away. But he's had a very, very good career. The only reason I'm saying he should walk away is just the fact that, you know, yes, Formula 1 hasn't been very nice to him in the past few years. He's had crashes, he's had spins, he's had memes made out of him. And you know, he's not going to beat Lewis Hamilton. He's not going to win the World Championship, and it has not worked with Ferrari. And that's the main thing I think is going to, you know, hit his psyche and might have deflated him a little bit. He went there with the purpose to match Schumacher and do all that, you know, and do bits there like, you know, his fellow German did, and obviously moved to the Scarlet Red team. You know, who Sebastian did say at the end of 2014, when Ferrari come a calling, you come a answering. So it hasn't worked for him, and I think that's going to be the massive hit for him. I think now move on. You know, whether that just be retirement or maybe another sport of maybe another form of racing, most likely retirement, and look back on what we said we're not going to mention, which is your 4 World Championships. And I still, honestly, when we talk about Sebastian, Jordan, I still get these in the back of my mind. I'm still thinking of that picture of Sebastian Vettel with his little blonde streaks in his hair, sitting with his arms folded, with his you know, sitting perched, with his 4-time world, with his Indian Grand Prix victor's trophy, holding number 4 on it. That was 3, holding 4 with his hands. You know, after winning the Indian Grand Prix in 2013 when he won the World Championship for the 4th time. You know, a little juvenile grin on his face. That's all I can see when I think of Seb. And you know, if you just retire and just think about that and just live on that for the rest of your life, it's not a bad way to go. I don't think he should stay in Formula 1 and try and rehash and relive all of what he should have achieved in Ferrari. It's almost like losing loads of money on the roulette table. I know I keep bringing that up. I haven't got a problem, I swear. It's kind of like losing loads of.
I was going to say,
like losing loads of money on the roulette table and then trying to win it back again. It can sometimes end. Most likely, it can end badly because you'll just keep losing more. And maybe that's what Sebastian's done at Ferrari. He's lost loads of money and he's trying to win it back. It's just not going to work very well. I think he should walk away and answer your Jordan question. Answer your question, Jordan. I think that it should be Sergio and Lance. I think Sergio for sure is the future of the team. I'm not saying Vettel should 100% not be signed by the team, but what I am saying is I think Sergio should 100% not be let go or should stay at the team. He should not go because he is the future. So Jordan, I mean, as I just said, they're turning a little bit of a prediction video there. It shouldn't have done it for 2021. Yes, obviously Sebastian Vettel. I mean, again, you give your little views as well at the start there, but you really like Sergio Perez because he drove for your team back in 2013, but he has had a very good bounce back from that, and he is one of the best drivers on the grid. So yes, Sebastian or Sergio. Let's say Lance is in that seat. Sergio or Lance. Sergio or Seb. Who are we going for?
Well, instant answer will be Perez. Now, see, because for me, Perez, like I said, he's been there longer. He's well established in the team. He's settled at the team. He's almost essentially the team leader. He's good enough to take Aston Martin forward. He's good enough to win races. Is he good enough to win a championship? Possibly. That's it remains to be seen as to whether he can go from start to finish. I would like to think so, but we've never seen Perez do that as of yet. But it's always that little thing of like what I mentioned earlier. Like Vettel is not the same Vettel he once was. Is that down to Vettel himself? Is that his ability, or is that it's because he's at Ferrari and the pressure is greater at Ferrari? And if he goes to Aston Martin and does replace crying out loud, if he replaces Perez, then will we see the old Sebastian Vettel return again? And that's the thing you've got to think about. It's like, well, I want to know. I want to see Vettel at another team. I want to see him in Aston Martin, and I want to see him at, like, I don't know, let's say back at Red Bull and see how he actually does. You know what I mean? Like, or even at somewhere else, like, for God's sake, Alfa Romeo. There's a lot of names in this episode, guys. Massive apologies. You know what I mean? So, like, at a team where the pressure, I suppose the pressure is greater at some teams more than others. So, the pressure will be greater at Red Bull compared to what it would be at Alfa Romeo. A lot of A's. Change the name, guys. Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri, Alfa. What the hell's going on? So if you went to Alfa Romeo and you didn't go to Red Bull, you know what I mean? Like the pressure would be more greater. But at the same time, he knows Christian Horner, he knows Helmut Marko, Matchett, he knows all the guys there. So it's not going to take much for him to settle in. You know what I mean? So he's going to be. Will he be more calm, more relaxed, and again see more Vettel? But from what I'm seeing in terms of his driving and his decisions and stuff like that, I'm going, I think Vettel, for me, he needs a year out. He needs a break from the sport. I've said for a while Vettel should retire, and I think he will retire. But I'm more now looking at I'm more swinging towards, I think Vettel should take a year out from the sport. Say a year out, reset everything. Leave Ferrari, because he's going to carry that kind of that mentality of going from having all that difficult time at Ferrari to then go at Aston Martin, let's say, for this sake, and if he starts having a poor performances, it's going to be, oh, Vettel at Ferrari, here we go again type of thing, and that's not going to improve his mindset, is it? So what I believe for Vettel is race Aston Martin, choose Sergio Perez, because for me at the present time you'll get more out of Perez than you will from Vettel. Vettel takes a year out and see where everyone else lands for 2022 and see if he can come back potentially. A year's a long time, but I think for me Vettel will come back as if he was never away, even after a year, and maybe have like a year on the sidelines and see how it goes and see the sport from a different view, from a retirement point of view. Spend time with his family, spend time away from the track, maybe have 1 or 2 appearances with whoever, and then see what happens for next season. That's what I think Vettel should do. And then, if he comes back a stronger driver, possibly we could see a return to a return to glory for the 4-time world champion.
John, what I was just thinking about there. When you say that obviously Sebastian taking a year out, it could help him. A lot of drivers obviously have done that in the past. And one driver I was thinking of, obviously it's not in any way the same caliber as Seb, is George Russell. Obviously GP2 world champion in 2018, 2019 stood at the sidelines watching Mercedes, and I'm just thinking there like that might. If Sebastian did that, I don't mean with Mercedes, obviously, but if he took a year out and then worked with either Ferrari or possibly, Aston Martin, if the chances of him going there in 2022 were to happen, that might help him as well. And Schumacher did, for example, at Ferrari. He helped them, and it also helped him both in his career and also his aspirations to get back into that Mercedes for 2010. Actually, that's probably for Sebastian's sake, that's probably the one to think about when obviously Michael Schumacher did. Retired in 2006. I think it was 2008. I remember him on the pit lane. It might have been 2007 as well. But yeah, from his time when he retired with Ferrari to the time when he returned to Mercedes, in the interim, he was working on the pit wall with Ferrari, and almost probably in the back of his mind thinking, do you know what, I miss this, and one day I am going to get back in the car. And then obviously watch out what happened in 2010. He gets back in the car with a brand new team and helps him. And this actually might be a little bit like Sebastian Vettel. So there we go, John, again. Thought something else. He's following Michael Schumacher in Michael's second, big thing in his career. Retires from Ferrari, takes a few years, helping them out, and then returns with Mercedes. What happens if Seb does this? But instead of Mercedes, it's Aston Martin. Go.
Ooh, I think that could help him, because if he is in line with Aston Martin in the future, then possibly it could get him enough time to be settled in. There's no pressure of a race weekend. He can come and go from the track when he pleases. But realistically, I do believe Vettel needs a year away from the sport. Now, he's a very private guy. We know this, and he doesn't let slip much about his private life, which is good. I think that's a really good thing. It's healthy for a driver that you're not on. It's good, that you're on social media and stuff. You can let out your thoughts and stuff, stuff like that. And it's good for us fans to see an insight into a mindset of a driver straight after, let's say, an incident. I mean, when Charles Leclerc retired from the Grand Prix, he almost immediately went on to Twitter to apologise, and that's kind of, I think that's good to see. It's like, oh well, we've seen it on Twitter. People can send messages of support, which will then encourage Charles Leclerc. Okay, it's not all doom and gloom. We'll pick ourselves up and we'll go forward next. But Vettel's not like that. Vettel's very private, and when he goes away from the track, we don't know what he gets up to unless he makes a random appearance on Twitter when someone's took a photo. If he's down his local supermarket or whatever, you know what I mean. So, or if he's doing like a couple of days at Maranello. So, other than that, we don't know what he gets up to. So, I think maybe a year out would be very beneficial. But at the same time, working alongside a team like me, I doubt Ferrari at this point, but it doesn't matter where he goes. I think he'll always be linked with that team if he goes to Red Bull and has, I don't know, some sort of role there. It could go, oh, was Vettel going back to Red Bull? And if he has one at Aston Martin or even Alfa Romeo, it's like, oh, is he going to go there? So that's going to come with it. But realistically for me, I think Vettel does need at least a year away from the sport. But it's been a very topical, it's been a very hot debate, hasn't it, this one, about the whole Vettel replacing Sergio Perez. Because as well, just before we actually conclude as well, the reason why I think the whole thing kicked up is because, like I said before, Lance Stroll, his dad owns the team, and Perez this week actually came out and said that he's been offered a contract from a rival F1 team, which has just added fuel to the fire that Perez is going to be replaced by Sebastian Vettel. The teams that are in question are Alfa Romeo and Haas. A driver like Perez in a Haas or Alfa Romeo, criminal. Agree, Lyle?
Yes, I think Alfa Romeo, possibly because obviously Kimi's most likely going to leave, and obviously Sergio's still got that ties with. Actually, I don't know if it's tied with Ferrari, but obviously we all know he wants to go to Ferrari, and if he goes to Alfa Romeo, that might help.
I don't know if he does now. I don't know if he does.
But Haas, for sure, and obviously Haas Ferrari as well, so they could still open the doors. But Haas, oh my god, are you really like? Oh my, no way.
No disrespect to Haas, but it does shivers.
A little bit disrespect.
It sends shivers down my spine when I heard Perez to Haas.
I don't think anyone wants that. I don't think anyone, Formula 2 drivers will hear, we've got your Formula 1 contract, get in with Haas.
Oh, where we going?
You can have it back.
We're going to Haas. Ah! I'm sorry, Haas, by the way, if anyone does support Haas. That's not, I know that other teams, there are worse teams.
I used to support them. I got all the merchandise. I've even got a...
You did. You were a Haas fanboy back in the day. You only supported them because they finished 5th in Bahrain. And after that, you were like, nah.
I liked Haas. He had a nice little...
But no, Haas and... Go on, sorry. Yeah, they were like that fresh kids on the block type of thing. But Haas have fallen from grace essentially from 2018, and it hasn't been a good ride for them either. And I think a driver like Perez at Haas aren't on the way up, and neither are Alfa Romeo. And it would be a shame to see a driver like Perez almost relegated to the midfield again when he's got a really good opportunity on his hands. At a team like Aston Martin, with the backing of Lance Stroll, with all his money, new factory going to be built next year. Like I said, the green return, and hopefully that of Aston Martin. A team like Aston Martin, for me, it has to be it has to be Sergio Perez and Sebastian Vettel. And I really hope that that is the case. The more I read into it, the more I doubt it. The more I'm doubting going, I think Stroll is going to be staying, and I think Vettel is going to be replacing Lance Stroll. And the only thing is, there's nothing we can do about it. But guys, this is where we're going to wrap up the episode. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, comment below about anything that we've said in today's episode. It's been a very good debate, I would say. It's been a very good one, talking about various other things, about Perez, Stroll, and of course Sebastian Vettel, the three main parties in this conversation, and Haas and Alfa Romeo making a random appearance 1 or 2 times as well. What do you think, guys? Do you want Perez Vettel to replace Sergio Perez? Are you happy with that? Are you sad with this? Do you want do you want the Perez Vettel experience? And as well, if you had to choose one driver to for them to replace, if Stroll was locked in, he couldn't move, he's there for next year, it was only going to be Perez or Vettel, who would you choose and why? The comment section could get very juicy for this debate show. But guys, like I said, thank you so much for watching as well. And if you're new around here, then please like and subscribe as well. Turn on that notification bell so you get a notification whenever we upload, send a video live, do a live stream, whatever we do. We've got the Hungarian Grand Prix coming up this week. Our preview dropped on Thursday. Go and check it out if you haven't already. And there will be live on YouTube for the review of the Hungarian Grand Prix. A live stream about just a couple of minutes after the checker flag has fallen. But guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys as always. Good debate today. Watch what you're doing. Stay safe as always. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.